Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another live stream. It took me a second to get this changed because the ad was as long as my countdown here on my screen, and that makes it a little bit difficult to press all buttons at the same time. But first of all, good evening, Katrina, Sock Juice, Roseanne, CJ, Chatty Red, Roisin, hi there. And first of all, Sock Juice, the change of your comment was very funny. And I think I got the intention there, but it was funny for those who have seen it at least before you pulled it back. It's totally hot in Germany still. We have more than 30 degrees here in Germany. And so I'm still melting in my office, so my studio. So you will see if water's running down. I don't have a leak somewhere. It's just the heat here in Germany. I'm so looking forward to Tuesday when it's supposed to get much colder. But hi Verti, you also joined. Nice to see you again. It's good to see the same people every Sunday, almost at least. It's real fun. And it's fun to do the live streams for you, of course. I will start, of course, quickly with the topic that I talked about this week already, but it is important. And that's, of course, that Great Britain rejoined not only Horizon, but only Copernicus. Because the years that Britain spent outside the European Research and Cooperation Programme Horizon Europe have caused serious damage, it is said. And scientists therefore do not see re-entry as a major gain because it's not much left, but at least they did it. And after the months of negotiations over the annual contributions, the Commission and the British government finally reached an agreement on the UK's association with Horizon Europe. There was a joint press release on Thursday, but in my video I already talked about the press release of the European Union. 3/4 of UK companies have moved or plan to move their R&D activities abroad between 22 and 23, with 63% of all companies moving their activities to EU countries. That was said by Dr. Jonathan Memmel, head of funding at Aiming UK, and he told this to Euractiv, and that's why they say it's not that helpful anymore now as it would have been if they have not made so much of a fuss of it, because a lot of damage has been done. And Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's previous hesitation, which he sees as politically motivated, indicates a lack of understanding, said Memmel. And Emma Bryant, a British academic and professor at Monash University, made similar comments, which criticized the Conservative Party. She said, Horizon membership has been put at risk by Conservatives' Brexit plans, which have made it impossible for UK universities to plan and jeopardize their contribution to science, but also to innovation and education, all for the sake of their political agenda. After damaging higher education, finding a way to return to the previous status quo that we helped create is hardly commendable. The government must support British businesses to make the most of the program in the coming years, she says. And she's quite right. They lost so much in that time. And many scientific experts had previously reacted positively to the news, though. The agreement will facilitate collaboration across Europe, cement the UK's position as a leading research location, and attract top scientist talent from around the world to make groundbreaking discoveries. That's at least the point of view of Professor Sir Nilesh Samani, the medical director of the British Heart Foundation. But as the others said, a lot have left the UK because of this. But the UK, after all this fuss and all the negotiations, first they couldn't join because of the breach of the Northern Ireland Protocol. Then they really dragged the whole thing out because of the contributions to the EU budget. And they, of course, will have to make a financial contribution now. And it will be subject to the safeguards of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. It's estimated that the UK will provide an average of almost 2.6 billion euros per year for its participation in Horizon Europe and the Copernicus component of the space program. But as I said in my video this week, the political agreement must now be approved by the member states, that means the European Council, because it's formally adopted in the EU-UK Technical Committee for Participation in Union Programs. That is part of the TCA as well, and there's a lot of stuff that is regulated there and negotiated there, which is not always in public, which is a good thing, but for in general a bad thing for my channel though, because I don't get everything early. But nevertheless, they finally came to a conclusion here. But I'm on the side of those that say that it did a lot of harm, and they are also right with saying that it was all just for political reasons and with an eye on the next general election. The only surprising thing is, if you look at politics, that they did do it now. Because in the end, they could have dragged it until there would be no use anymore of taking part. But the Brexiteers voters will not be very happy about this. And you remember the thing, after the UK left the EU political structures and the European Parliament on January 31st in 2020, the Brexiteers were always wanting a hard Brexit, a WTO Brexit, and so on. And for some time now, they're blaming the government for not implementing Brexit properly. And you know that there are others that want to join the EU again. I said join again, not rejoin. And you know my stance on that and why this wording is important. Because they would join again, but on very different terms. So it's not a real rejoining. And during that time, the EU moved forward. And of course, there were some years of horizon already. But because there were changes in the EU as well, and there's still a lot going on in the EU, I will make a test here on my channel. And that's what I wanted to tell you, my live stream viewers, that are with me every Sunday evening. First, especially also Ellie, who appeared, and once again without a menu. Ellie doesn't want me to show up at her place for Sunday dinner. Hi Ellie, for coming. In the next weeks, I will make a test here on my channel by bringing news about the EU in my midday video again. That will keep people informed what's happening, what the EU has left, the UK has left, and what people want to return to, because they need to know that as well when they're always discussing this joining, what they call rejoin. And I want them to make informed decisions, and I want to put the whole thing on a more fact-based approach here, because you know that all the whataboutists all the time are bringing up the EU as well, and I think it fits, because they're always talking about what they left. You know, all this crap about the EU dictatorship and so on, but also they're always talking about what's going on in the EU and have no clue about what's going on in the EU. And since my magazine channel is reserved at the moment solely for the development in the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, it makes also sense to do it here. There are not many viewers on the Ukraine thing, but it's important, more important to me that people get proper information instead of all this fake stuff, and that not having that many viewers on that channel is a price I'm absolutely willing to pay for that. I'm losing money by this, but I don't care. It's more important to bring out facts and to tell people what cannot be verified and so on. And that's why I'm still doing it there. But so there's also not this weekly EU program there. But the most important thing is, I believe that exactly my audience here on this channel needs this information, and that's why I will do this test. If there are too few viewers, it would harm this channel because it's a different topic. That's why in the very beginning I ended all this complete mixed stuff. I made the worst mistakes when I started here by doing videos in 2 languages. I would never do that again. But I will make this test, and if those videos get decent views, at least for people who are interested, I will continue. If they get too few views, that would harm the channel, so I wouldn't. But if a lot of people, not compared to the Brexit videos or something, I know what videos I have to make to get the really big views, but I'm not doing that all the times because I want to give you a full picture. But I will make this test. And I would like to know from my very sincere viewers showing up every Sunday live to this, what you think about this idea. I will try it, of course, anyway, but I would like to know what you think about it. CJ, Sock Juice, Ellie, Katrina, Roisin, Verti, and whoever I forgot, I'm sorry, was the most I could see right now. So I would like to know what you think. And I quickly have a look at it in the meantime on Ellie's menu, if I can see it, because someone said delicious. Okay, I take the tortilla and skip the snapper. I don't like fish. So I'm not in danger, by the way, by some seafood from British waters. Yeah, I've just eaten some Chinese today. I'm testing a little stuff with my long COVID. I have a problem with something I don't know the English word for, I must say. That's how my body proceeds stuff. And that's also why I got that fat, thanks to long COVID. Not only because of the muscle issues and everything, but carbs are hell for me. When I was living in the UK, it was quite easy to get low carb food everywhere. That was a nice thing. And back in Germany, it's really complicated. And now I found something from Japan I'm testing at the moment to replace pasta or something by cognac pasta and rice. So I hope this will help me a little bit in this long COVID mess, because it's still no progress at all. After 1 year in the gym again, after my doctor allowed me to go again, nothing. And in the past, I was in the gym daily before COVID, and I was, as my long-term viewers know, in the military and everything. But since I got long COVID, and this 1 year in gym did nothing, no changes in anything. And so that's no fun. So people who are still saying that this was just fraud, it's, well, forget it. But everyone was still on Ellie's menu. I don't see any comment on the EU video idea. So I will just go through with it and wait for your comments under the videos. But somebody else asked me also, Brexit would give anyone digestive problems. As Sock Juice, you're probably right about that. But I picked up another topic as well for today that I included in one of my videos on the financial market, but I wanted to bring it in the live stream as well, and that's because it's not only Birmingham, because at the moment many British cities are threatened with bankruptcy. Britain's city councils are suffering from the financial difficulties, and in addition to inflation and lower income, they are also facing billions in labor law lawsuits. Birmingham was the first to be hit. Britain's second largest city said last week that it could no longer meet its financial obligations, and therefore only the most important expenses will be maintained. In the corporate world, such insolvency would de facto be tantamount to bankruptcy, but such problems are currently standard on the British island. The financing system no longer works. That was said by Stephen Houghton, the chairman of the Sigoma Municipal Association, and called on the government in London to support it. And he says miracles have been performed in the past 13 years, but there is nothing left. And so he says they were left out in the rain. I'm, as you know, a voluntary local politician as well, and deputy district mayor, at the moment acting mayor because he's on holiday. But I know how it is with dealing with, in our case, with the state and the federal level. But here it still works that they take care. And the Birmingham case in the UK shows where the problems actually lie. Long-standing problems, such as the introduction of a new computer system, have been exacerbated by cuts amounting to £1 billion since 2010. That was said by the city. And now the unbridled inflation, the rise in the cost of adult social care, and lower business tax revenues have led to what they call a perfect storm. And above all, Birmingham is also burdened by a conviction for violations of labour law. From 2006 to 2012, the city paid female employees, many of whom work in nursing or education jobs, lower bonuses and salaries than men, and was eventually forced to pay back. And to date, Birmingham City Council has shelled out around £1.1 billion to redress the inequality, but has now faced new demands because the problems appear not to have been addressed. And the GMB union, which accompanied many of the lawsuits, is currently supporting at least 3,000 other employees in more than 20 municipalities in their lawsuit against the public administration. And GMB manager Ray Wolfson told The Guardian that evidence of unequal treatment is currently being collected, for example, in Dundee, Glasgow, and Coventry. And they say that everywhere they look, they find problems, and the compensation will cost more billions. Although the situation appears to be particularly challenging at the moment, defaults have long been a tradition in British local authorities. Northamptonshire declared in 2018 that it would not meet its financial obligations with a so-called Section 114 notice. Slough and Croydon councils were de facto bankrupt several times within a few years. So this is not just a thing for them. And the situation, of course, always has to do with the distribution of finances between the government level and the local level. And I can imagine what Tory politics meant here in the last 13 years. And I saw that Frank showed up as well. Hi, Frank. Welcome to my channel. That you have to explain Soteo to me. Well, Katrina, wherever I look, I always get the information that it is the second largest city, at least here from my German sources. State of the Union. Yeah, now I know what you mean. Yeah, it's always weird, seriously, to hear State of the Union in the EU, although it's a union, of course. But I always immediately put it in the United States because we're all used to it, to hear this from the American president and Congress. And so whenever there's State of the Union, I never associate that word with the EU. That's something trained on too long, I guess. I know that I read a lot of them, of course, but I still don't associate that with the EU immediately. And that's it's weird, but it's something I immediately always associate with the EU, with the US. So when you bring up something with the State of the Union, I don't get it. It's weird, but it's the way it is. At least we heard something from Suella Braverman this week again. And funny as it is, it has nothing to do with migrants. For a long time, I don't have to talk about Suella Braverman and migrants, because the news this week we got from the Home Office was that Great Britain wants to declare the Wagner Group a terrorist group. I think everyone in the news has heard about the Wagner Group and their coup that they tried in June, and then their withdrawal, and then the accident that Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner Group, and some of his highest ranking people had. And the Wagner Group has been fighting in Russia's interest for years, including in Ukraine, but also in Africa, to get their hands on resources. And the British government said now they were involved in torture and murder and wanted to classify the mercenaries as a terrorist group. And they are right with the torture and murder thing. I will not go into the details here, but we got videos from the occupied territory in Ukraine and what they did to prisoners. The British government wanted to declare the Russian mercenary group Wagner a terrorist organization, and a corresponding bill will be submitted to Parliament in London, said the Home Office. And this makes membership and support of the mercenary group a criminal offence, and its assets can be confiscated. And Suella Braverman said, Wagner is a violent and destructive organization that acts as a military instrument of Vladimir Putin's Russia abroad. The private army is involved in looting, torture, and barbaric murders, and their operations in Ukraine, the Middle East, and Africa pose a threat to global security, according to Braverman. They are terrorists, pure and simple, she said. And Braverman's move followed a recommendation from the Foreign Affairs Committee in the House of Commons in July. The committee accused the government of underestimating and downplaying the danger posed by Wagner. Wagner was commanded, as I said, by businessman Yevgeny Prigozhin, who died in a plane crash in Russia a few weeks ago. For those who don't know, before he was the boss of Wagner, he was Putin's cook. The group has played an important role since the start of Russia's war against Ukraine in February 22, and they are accused of war crimes also in other countries, for example in Africa, where they are deployed. And Great Britain had already imposed sanctions on Prigozhin himself and several of his most important commanders because of his participation in Russia's war against Ukraine. And as you know, on my magazine channel, I'm talking about the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. Sorry, but Verdi was good. It's a serious topic, but we went downhill quickly. Ursula and then Suella. Yeah, it's true, but I have to pick the topics of the week and talk about them. But as I said, you know that I'm doing the developments in the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine on my magazine channel, and this is the right step the UK is doing here. And as I told you, if the UK does something right, I will tell you as well. So that's for all those people that always say I'm always Britain bashing or whatever. No, first of all, I'm bashing that government for every nonsense they do, and not Britain as a whole. And secondly, I bring what is out there, what is happening there. And when they mess up so often, yeah, I have to talk about what they're messing up. If they do something good, I talk about this as well. They just should do more good, then I could talk more about good stuff. But this is the right decision, I must say. The Wagner Group, well, will probably not play a big role anymore. After the coup, or the attempted coup, they had to give up or give back all their heavy weaponry, and then most of them moved to Belarus. And now, after Prigozhin's death and the death of so many of the leadership of Wagner, A lot of them will probably be incorporated into the Russian army, and the Wagner Group itself will not play such a big role anymore. It will probably be continued under this name for the missions in Africa and so on, where it was really about helping dictatorships in some cases there against rebels, and securing the resources there. And you know that there are a lot of resources in Africa. Although a lot of countries there could be much wealthier if they had decent politicians, and if they weren't led by that much corruption. But Putin wants to get his hands on it. And so the Wagner Group will in some form still be there as an independent force helping those governments. And in the end, it will just be a decoy for the Russian military helping there in disguise or something, but a very bad one, because everyone with a sound mind knows what's happening there then. But nevertheless, that's something still good as a symbol. It will not have that much impact anymore after the situation with Wagner changed, but they indeed committed a lot of crimes in the Ukraine, in the Donetsk and Luhansk region, and I hope, especially because there are very cruel videos and people were masked, but I hope that after the war those people can be found somehow and be put on trial, because that was unbelievably cruel and definitely war crimes. And not to talk about where they got some of their people from and what kind of people that were. That was very not so funny either. And unfortunately I have to continue with another not so, let's say, fun topic. Because there's more trouble in Northern Ireland as well. Because there were new riots after police raids and I know some of my Irish viewers will complain, but I use the official names that are recognized internationally. And so I will have to say there were riots after police raids in Londonderry. And during searches, the police found firearms, hand grenades and explosives. And then the situation escalated and several police officers were injured. In Londonderry, the police have announced that officers and vehicles were attacked with masonry and Molotov cocktails on Thursday. 16 emergency services were injured and they suffered burns and head injuries, and that's absolutely unacceptable. And the clashes were triggered by several searches in the city. And as I said, the police seized firearms, hand grenades and explosives there. The items are of military quality, and the police believe that they were intended to carry out attacks to kill police officers. Sorry. The topic is hard to digest, but also the air in this heat here. The investigators assume connections to the Republican splinter group New IRA. And 2 men and a woman were arrested under the Anti-Terrorism Act. I talked about this in other videos already. The New IRA is a splinter group of the paramilitary Provisional Irish Republican Army. And you know that the original IRA has been disbanded, but there were people who are not okay with the Good Friday Agreement. And back in February, 2 attackers shot a senior police officer multiple times as he was coaching a children's football team in the city of Omagh. And the New IRA claimed responsibility for the attack. And the terror alert level in the north was raised to serious at the time. And that's why the topic is important as well. Even after the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, the situation in Northern Ireland is tense. The region has had a long civil war in which predominantly Catholic supporters of a unification of Northern Ireland with the Republic of Ireland fought against mostly Protestant supporters of the union with Great Britain, and with that the police and the British military. and more than 3,200 people have been killed in this conflict. And I mentioned it in the start of the video, Londonderry is called Derry by Republican supporters of reunification. That's why I said there will be some complaints about this. But as I said, I have to use the currently official names of places. But this topic is coming back all the time, and we of course have to talk a lot about the DUP, which is still causing a lot of trouble politically in Northern Ireland. But there are also those terrorist groups still there. And the new IRA is one of them. This is the example on the reunification side, but they are not as big as the ones on the unionist side, but they are more aggressive. And on the unionist side, those that want to remain with Britain, they are many more people, and they are dangerous as well. But they are more dangerous to their own people at the moment. That's at least what you see from all the studies I can access here in Germany, and so not that much to official personnel or whatever. But this finding of those weapons is of course a very dangerous sign, combined with the fact what we talked about in recent weeks about the data leak because of this information request, that so many names and places of work, etc., of police officers and public employees at the police were handed out and were circling on the internet. And the new IRA definitely will have this information. And so the combination makes this topic more important, and that's why I didn't want to skip it. As I said, I will use my live streams also for all the things that where you during the week you only see a very small announcement or something, and you get no other information and no background information or whatever. And that's why I include it in my live stream, so it doesn't fall out of the view or something. And that's why I want to bring these things as well. And yeah, Chetty, but I'm not talking about the local authority, but about I'm talking about the city itself. That's the point. And that's why I had to say this. But devolved politics is always a problem in the UK anyway. We know about Northern Ireland, and that will keep us busy for quite some time. It will keep us busy in the discussions about the ETA that's coming up. I talked about this in another video this week as well. It does not include Ireland, but there are now a lot of discussions I saw in English newspapers about this, that there are people in England against excluding Ireland from that. And on the other side, stuff that we hear from Scotland and Wales, because of the good run of my STFC channel. I told you I had to concentrate on that one as well, and I am just a human, so I can do a limited number of videos every week, and so I have to concentrate on my main channel here, and of course the short daily information on the developments in the war in the Ukraine, but also on the STFC channel, because that is working. And so some of my test channels are on hold at the moment, so that's why you're not seeing so much about Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland so much on the other channel, but I included it a bit on this channel again because it's also UK politics. But there are also things I'm still waiting for. I recently talked about the thing with Hamza Yousaf's plans for for independence. Still, I couldn't find any more details here, and but there's still something simmering under the surface, and the union is not that united at the moment, and so all these little things come together, and now they're even kind of competing, because I talked about those 4-day week stuff in Britain some time ago, and now Scotland wants to start a pilot project for civil servants and administrative employees. And in Cambridge, on the other hand, there's an experiment that's highly controversial. But let's quickly talk about this 4-day week work stuff. There are pushes for a 32-hour week across Europe. We have unions here in Germany that are demanding reduction in working hours, but with full wage compensation for workers. And that is, for example, here in my home state, in the iron and steel industry, where they're demanding it. And in Britain, there already have been individual attempts, and the battle over the interpretation has broken out now. And in Scotland, the left-wing government is now preparing a pilot project for civil servants, as various media reported unanimously. And First Minister Hamza Youssef from the Scottish National Party, which is in coalition with the Greens, wants to start it soon. The pilot project is scheduled to start at the end of 2023 and last 12 months. That was at least written by the SNP affiliated newspaper The National. Officials from several ministries and state agencies are expected to take part in this pilot project of a 32-hour week. And the trial aims to measure well-being, environmental and productivity benefits. That was at least said by Youssef's government program. But honestly, I would like to know from you what you think about this. We are in every country, we have staff shortages. Britain a bit more thanks to Brexit, but everywhere there are staff shortages. And at the same time, they are demanding a 4-day week or a 32-hour working week. How is that supposed to work? And at the same time, on the same monthly wages they got before. So a big pay rise included. How is that supposed to work? We are in trouble here in Germany. Our so-called boomer generation will will retire soon, and then our staff shortage will be much bigger than it is right now. And we have a German satire show here that is called the Heute Show, and it is well known with some people in the UK and the US, as I know. I've seen a lot of videos from Americans and Brits commenting on the Heute Show, especially at the time when they did a lot of stuff on Brexit, but also on other issues. And they made a very good thing about this week, about the boomer generation. We will have even less people working then. And I mean, not talking about who is paying for the pensions of those from the boomer generation. That's another topic as well. But in that situation, people want during a staff shortage and still high inflation everywhere, some places more than others, but still high, want to get a big pay rise and less working. How is that supposed to work? And I mean, I'm self-employed for a long time now, so I'm working very often 7 days a week anyway. So that's not the point. But even before that, I was working in a branch where a 6-day week was normal. And I don't know how people get this idea. Everybody's only talking about work-life balance and everything, but yeah, sure, everyone is happy about a free day. That's why on my birthday weekend I even skipped a live stream, and it will happen again that there will be some Sunday where there is no live stream. but we must keep the relations. I mean, work-life balance is a fine thing. Of course, you want to spend time with your family and everything. But it must work. The economy must still work. We in the West are living quite happy lives with our own difficulties and our own fights. You know that, and I'm talking openly about this, that on YouTube I'm not making as much money as I did when there was no war and there was no crises and everything, and people and companies had to keep their money together. You haven't seen an advertising stuff like with Brexit biscuits or with the bigger companies here on my channel for some time, because they're all saving money and are not spending that much anymore. But still, we are having our troubles on a high level. But we want to keep to be able to complain on a high level. We have to keep our economies running. I mean, the so-called I lost my English word there. The countries that are on the rise, like India, Brazil, and so on, they will not stop developing. And we are just getting lazy here in the West and just let them catch up easily? How can this work? I mean, I will... You cannot raise the productivity. Productivity is a good work, Joao, and hi, by the way. You cannot raise productivity in a shorter working time that much that it will equalize the loss here. And still, tell this to someone working in a care home. They are in trouble finding people already. We have so big staff shortages there, and then tell them that the people are only working 4 days. The old people there that need the care are there 7 days a week. And if nobody is there, they are in real trouble and stuff like this. So, or I mentioned the steel industry earlier, here in my home state. They are seriously putting pressure on our government because of the energy prices at the moment and the energy policy of our government, because that brings them in trouble and they cannot be as productive and competitive as they were. And now they should even hurt their own staffing. So I'm absolutely not a friend of this 4-day week nonsense. It will definitely harm our economies, and we will see what Hamza Yousaf's test will bring there, but it's not even a proper test. If you do this in government agencies, seriously, sometimes I have the feeling, also in our local one here, that they're not working very much anyway. So you wouldn't even recognize that someone is missing 1 day more or not. But in real life business, this will have a big impact, and you cannot compare doing this with public servants or with business people in businesses. That is not comparable. So this test is not working at all. So I don't know what the S&P is doing there. The S&P is obviously going back to its own old self, and that was the part where I always said I'm not a friend of the S&P's policies. I was siding with them on the issue of the referendum on Scottish independence, but there's a lot of policy I not agree with, and that is one of those left policies I do not agree with. But nevertheless, in other countries, there's a lot we don't want. So they're working much longer. They don't have workers' protection like we have, and so on. But they are still exporting to us. Although we are criticizing this a lot, it's still happening. And now we want to give them more advantages? I really don't get it. I'm sorry. And I quickly have to have a look. So tired, unhappy person is not good. Well, working 5 days a week is for 8 hours is not killing anyone. Seriously. Most of my life I had jobs that had more days and more hours every day. And I'm not even talking about the current time. And that is not killing anyone. I had more time for all my voluntary stuff I did when I was working in a normal job within a 9-to-5 job, so to speak. But 5 days, 9-to-5 job is not taking people that down that they are not productive anymore, because they are totally exhausted, honestly. Then I should have collapsed a lot of times between. Well, but that was one rant in another direction at the moment. There is one topic I wanted to bring up because I went through it myself when I was living in London. Because now, when I endangered my life at the time, that is now a topic at the moment in London as well on the government side. Because there is something where Paris is leading the way and London is lagging behind still. Because Paris and London are both trying to make their cities more bike-friendly. While people in London, so to speak, are standing on their own feet, Paris is on the right track here. And they show how differently the transport transition can be approached. Paris is planning to become 100% bike-friendly with car-free zones that will be introduced from next year, and rentable e-scooters have been banned from the city, which is a nice thought, but I always will say there must be other ways, because blocking business is a topic where I would say it goes a bit too far, but there should be a thing that we're discussing in our city here about they can only be dropped at certain marked places all over the city, and if they don't, the one that used it last gets a fine. So that's a data protection issue then, but it can be done. But London, on the other hand, is extending the test phase for e-scooters by at least a year. And because of the long COVID stuff I talked about earlier, I recently had to get an e-scooter myself because where I live in my city and in my district, it's a bit further out from my two other boroughs that are part of my district. And I cannot still make it with a bike to the other two boroughs and back. My body won't let me. And the bus, we have some bus issues here and there. We're back at staff shortages and companies not treating their people right. There's one bus company here that unfortunately got the contract by the city in a procurement thing that is not doing its job. And so a lot of buses failed here, and my borough doesn't have so many, although I'm fighting for it for years. And I had to get one. And I'm use it to get to my other boroughs when I cannot get a bus, and so that's a good thing. But I know the trouble with the rented one. But there are ambitious plans for cycle path expansion in London, although I don't know where they want to do it. The inability to plan at a city level results in a lack of continuity on the streets there. The expansion of the cycle network is in the hands of the individual city districts now. And it's quite ridiculous. You can offer people 15 miles of separated cycle paths, and as soon as there's a dangerous mile, they won't risk it, and people will be scared. And I can tell you why they are absolutely right saying this, because I'm coming from a city that is called e-bike is about 10 times as expensive as the e-scooter Verti here. So I cannot afford an e-bike, I'm honest. I talked about my income earlier. So that unfortunately cannot happen. That's why I'm not doing bike tours for public stuff anymore, because I cannot keep up with them. With other people that can afford one of those. No, but I'm coming from a city that is called for decades the biking capital of Germany. And so as a kid, of course, I learned how to ride a bike. I even made my bike driving license. That was a standard thing that the police did with us in primary school. We really did a driving license test there with police. It was fun. But so when I moved to London at the time, of course I brought my bike with me. And I was one of the really crazy people that tried to go to work with a bike. And honestly, that was dangerous. And at the time, my boss and me, we were the only two crazy people coming with a bike to work, and I understand why, because I lived through the whole horror there, riding a bike in London. It's a long time ago. Maybe they improved some things there in the meantime, but at that time, the car drivers, I don't know, it was dangerous. And I can imagine if they haven't done much since then, it's not a very bike-friendly city. Absolutely not. And didn't do it the whole time I was living there, because a few months before I left, someone stole my bike. Of course, someone broke into my apartment, and another time someone stole my bike from a roof terrace. So I had very lucky times in London as well. But nevertheless, that was so dangerous. It is really scary with a bike in London at the time. And so I can understand why they say that biking is becoming more common in Paris than in London, but Paris is also making citywide changes. It's the same here. Of course, we discuss on the district level what we want to do, but in the end, we will set up citywide projects with the city council and the other district councils. And so, of course, you have a different kind of proposition. Paris has more cycle lanes, and they are secured there. And here in my hometown, even we are having bike lane planning with the other regions around the city. We have bike lanes that go from my city more than 100 kilometers into other regions, and they were planned together. And that is something we do here. And so that is another different approach. But the basic should be to do it on the citywide level, because we have so-called Velorouten. That means that's a bike route that's going from one end of the city to the next. And those are the ones that are going into other regions as well. But on the city level, I mean, they go from one end of the city to the next. And so you have to plan through the whole city to make this one fast lane, so to speak. And that's why it's absolutely important to have a citywide approach on the whole thing. And I don't understand Sadiq Khan here, that he's not demanding a citywide approach for London here, especially knowing from which party he is, and that the districts are letting the London mayor do that to them and the London council, because it's another thing with about money. I mean, Paris spends 250 million euros by 2026 to improve the bicycle infrastructure throughout the whole city. In London, 3 times the amount is planned, but the money is divided between the individual districts, and you know what happens. In the borough of Kensington and Chelsea, for example, there is massive resistance to the expansion of cycling infrastructure. And a few weeks ago, a young cyclist in the district died on a bridge where there was no designated cycling route. And the London Cycling Campaign wants to develop joint approaches to prevent such accidents in the future. And so while Paris and London try to steer towards a transport transition on their own individual paths, one question remains unanswered. How can cities succeed in finding the right balance between sustainable development and security and safety? And that's the lack I saw personally in the UK when I was living there. Because biking and safety were two things that didn't work together. But that's another reason why you need a citywide approach. And just putting in more money will not do it. If Paris continues on their path, I'm absolutely sure that they will achieve more with only a third of the money. And so money is not everything. Some people on government level in Britain always seem to think money is the most important thing in the world. But intelligent approaches are important as well, I'm sorry. And that is something they sometimes lack there. And that is not working well. I mean, here we have some advantages when we are planning something like this. We get subsidies by the state and the federal level because they are assisting this. And so our plans of the velo routes were sometimes a bit controversial because some people complained about where they were set up and stuff like this, but it was just minor discussions. But we never had the problem here in my city that we couldn't pay for them, that we couldn't plan properly, and there's a really succinct planning of the whole thing. And there's a whole master plan for biking, so to speak, for the long term. And we already know what we were building there for the next years and stuff like this. And so something like that is needed. And otherwise, if biking stays as dangerous as I remember it from London, don't go through London by bike. I just tell you, don't do it. And as you can see, because I always have to take off my glasses, I'm melting again. I am really looking forward to next week. And the good thing is that I could stay away, except the beginning of the live stream, a bit from Brexit. But there are other topics that are important, and that's why I looked at some that have nothing to do with Brexit, because there's a lot to discuss on other issues, and that's why I said I want to bring up some stuff as well. And yeah, to the bike stuff again in Munich, there's no space for bike lanes, certainly not downtown. Yeah, no, we have the problem somewhere here as well, and that ended in one-way streets to be used by bikes, for example, in both directions, and that's allowed, and cars can only go very slow in those streets. And we have so-called bike streets here. They even have a different color. So the normal street, usually in Germany, bike lanes are painted red. And we have streets here that are painted red as well. I think a sign at the beginning of the road would have been enough, because this damp paint was very expensive and is not even holding, because it's a too big area to be covered, and when cars drive over it, it's something different than when bikes ride over it, usually on a bike lane. But nevertheless, we have those streets, and cars have to be very careful there, because they are street lanes and bike streets. So that was it. And the cars are just accepted there, so to speak. And that's what we do when we have no space for bike lanes. And the rules here have changed. How in the past you could use one path for bikes and for pedestrians. Now we have rules also for the size of the bike lanes. They grew bigger, and so at places where in the past we had bike lanes, we can't have some because the space is not there. It's complicated, and Ellie will know what I'm talking about. Because I was living in Munich as well for some time, but it is quite a serious topic, and I'm glad if someone is picking that up. But at the moment, London is not on the best path here. But I was already at my heat stuff when I came back to the bikes. As I said, I picked some topics that are not Brexit related today because it's important to know them, and it's important to talk about other topics as well. I know how it works with the views, that Brexit is bringing the most views here, and especially when I'm doing videos on the negative part where people can be really angry, I get the most views, but I'm not doing this all the time. So people are complaining about clickbait there, by the way. No, it's not clickbait. First of all, there's something called ethical clickbait, which has nothing to do with real clickbait, and people should know the difference there, by the way, when I'm doing the thumbnails. And in the next few weeks, please let me know what you think of the thumbnails. I'm trying out some stuff with the pictures there, and I really would like to know your opinions about those. And that would be nice to get some feedback there, because I'm trying something else with the pictures, and I would like to know what you think about them. They are not as in your face as usual, with always a British flag there and stuff like this. And so I'm not telling you always on first glance what country I'm talking about, because somehow the Union Jack is needed a lot of times for people to click a video. I'm trying it differently for the moment, because I think this picture approach is quite fun, and I really would like to know what you think about them. Sometimes I get something nice out of it. I'm trying to use AI a bit for those pictures, and I'm testing those things with that as well, and not only on my channel, but also testing those programs and looking what's coming out there when you try to say something special. It's quite funny. So I would like to know what you think about this. The heat is really killing me. You probably got it that I was babbling a little bit more today, because my brain is cooking at the moment. And so I want to thank everyone for coming today, and I hope you don't mind that I wasn't looking the whole time at the chat. My common friend is on a business trip still, so that's why you didn't get so many of those messages today as well. But I would love to see you on my news channel as well. It's not even 3 months old, already 500, on the way to 500 subscribers, so I like that as well. And more than 30,000 views already, so that channel is doing really well. But so one day a week I have to film a lot on that one and cannot use it for other channels. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing at the moment. But I'm always happy to see you all again. And I'm not saying until next Sunday, because tomorrow in the morning you will see me again, I hope, because the video is uploaded already. And I wish you a nice rest of the Sunday evening, and have a nice weather for your spare time, and stay healthy. I heard about the new COVID variants in the UK, for example, as well, and it's spreading. COVID is spreading everywhere, although they're not testing it anymore. But a lot of people are sick at the moment, just normal flu symptom kind of stuff, so nothing serious. But be good, be back. I'll be back.